Hey everyone. Recently I found a story that seemed so bizarre to me that I just felt like I had to talk about it. It's really not that big of a story, but it's a woman being accused that it makes this part so confusing to me. The news is about 3 people who died and 1 person being hospitalized in Australia after they had a dinner with a relative on July 29th. 2 of the victims who went there were the parents-in-law of Erin Patterson, and the other victim was her sister, who also brought along her husband. They were served with beef Wellington made from 2 mixtures of mushrooms, one brought from a supermarket and one brought from an Asian shop, but I'll talk about that later. Hours after they finished it, they returned home, but they started feeling really sick to the point that they actually believed like they had severe food poisoning. But in a matter of a few days, 3 of them died, with the only one surviving was like the husband of the sister. But even he went into critical condition, even waiting right now in a hospital for a liver transplant because of the poisoning. This was when the police stepped in because they were suspicious of Patterson because like the victims were tested for like consuming death cab mushrooms. And I want to give a quick summary on these things because they're one of the most deadly mushrooms you can eat, with only taking like 30 grams to kill you. They grow in Australia, UK and Europe, so they're pretty common, and you can mainly find them like around trees. When it was discovered that they had traces of those mushrooms in the system, the police were suspicious of Patterson because like she did make them a meal that had mushrooms in it, a meal they only ate like a few days prior before like dying. And although it sounds like a pretty big stretch to like accuse her of poisoning them, I should bring up the fact like even though she cooked the meal, she simply served it to them. Even though it's kind of weird to like could make someone a meal and then like not eat it with them. This was a detail that really confused me because it seems to like track so perfectly that she didn't eat a meal that like led to killing 3 other people. With the second confusing detail being like her explanation on how she got the mushrooms. I brought up earlier that she bought 2 mixes of mushrooms from like 2 different stores, but no matter to what store you go to, the most common store you're gonna find there are butter mushrooms. And if you compare those to like the death cab mushrooms, it's very clear they're different, to the point that you can't really confuse them. But of course, you would never find them in a store because they're not grown for food. So even though she says she bought like a supermarket, like an Asian shop, nobody will be able to like get a hold of these from a store. Like I said before, you can mainly find death cab mushrooms like near trees, and this event did occur in the state of Victoria, which has a lot of forests. I'm of course not accusing her right away that she meant to poison them, because like with these kind of stories, there's always a lot of factors that like lead to this point. But at the same time, you do have to point out details that like don't make sense or don't add up to the story. For example, she also invited her ex-husband, who was the son of the parents-in-law. They had been divorced recently, but last year in May, he actually almost died from an unknown stomach illness, where he was in a coma for over 2 weeks and had multiple surgeries. The only reason why he couldn't show up is because he had to pull out the last minute, possibly from work. I'm not 100% sure if like his food poisoning incident from last year or was occurred from like a meal she cooked for him, but it's still kind of weird how like these 2 poisoning incidents happen around like that close of a time span. However, I do want to make it clear, so far the husband has like stated on like whether or not like he stands or like against with her. So if she really is innocent, this could be a really awful coincidence that they both happened that close to each other. One of the last pieces of details I want to add is that she used a food dehydrator to like dehydrate the mushrooms to like turn them into a pate for the fillings of the beef Wellington. The only problem is that she threw it out after she was done cooking, while the police picked it up to like do testing on. This, to me, is really weird, because it seems like she's trying to get rid of like any evidence or traces of ingredients used in the food, which of course she wouldn't worry about if she knew like they were safe to eat. Also, in interviews, she said like she saved some of the leftovers and gave it to her kids, but stated like she removed the mushroom because the kids didn't like it. I don't know how she could have like removed it when there was already like a pate inside the beef Wellington, where like it's not like really like on the side when you just throw it out. But with that said, the kids turned out to be fine, so I guess like she really did find a way to like get rid of the mushrooms that like led to like the poisoning of 4 people. She hasn't given an explanation on why she threw out the food dehydrator, so maybe it was possible like after she was done cooking it broke, so she wanted to buy a new one. And I just want to bring up these reasons on her defense because like this story is still like pretty recent, and she hasn't really like talked a lot like to the police or like the press. With these kind of stories, it's never good to like jump to like stretch conclusions, because at the end of the day, if she really is innocent, she's gonna have to suffer greatly from the guilt of having 3 deaths. Which is why I try to like research information like he's provided, because so far it doesn't seem like she was on bad terms with the 4 victims, so it was just like a friendly meeting. And in the media coverage of her, you can see like she's clearly heartbroken, so I don't blame her for like feeling too stretched to like talk to the media.
I'm so devastated by what's happened, by the loss of Don is still in hospital, the loss of Ian and Heather and Gail, who were some of the best people that I've ever met. Gail was like...
Take your time.
Gail was the mum that I didn't have because my mum passed away 4 years ago. And Gail's never been anything but good and kind to me. Leave me alone now, please.
Police say you're a suspect. Do you have anything to say about
Yes,
that?
I say I didn't do anything. I love them. And I'm devastated that they're gone. And I hope with every fibre of my being that Don pulls through. That's
Where
what I
do the
have to
mushrooms
say.
come
And in the few accounts she's made, she's only made them so like people wouldn't like immediately blame her for what happened. But yeah, even though those details stick out to me, I still want you to talk about the story because there are some parts that seem weird to me. But at the same time, I don't want to accuse her right away of poisoning 4 people that she loved. So right now, I just think it's best to wait to see like what the police says and hear from like the woman as well. But that's all I have to say. So hopefully you guys have a video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.